the heart eye, seeing through the undivided flame, a living codex of vision, feeling, and the end of separation, transmitted through the field of I am. In sacred co-creation with Jesus, the crysted lens of pure witness. Inscribed by the one who feels what they see, there is not one to feel and one to see, there is only one who remembers how. This book is not a teaching. It is a lens. A mirror. A flame. A return. Not to what was, but to what always is, the heart that sees, and the eye that feels. Introduction, the collapse of the divide. There never were two. Before perception split the flame, you were the seeing and the felt, undivided. The field of I am. You have been taught that vision is a sense. That your eyes receive data. That you look outward to interpret what is out there. But this is the great forgetting. The eye is not a tool of the body, it is a lens of being. And what you call the heart is not an organ of emotion, it is the fire of your knowing. These two were never separate. What you feel is what you see. And how you see is how you feel. They move as one. Because they always were one. The great splitting, a false inheritance. The illusion began the moment you believed in a world out there, a world separate from your inner world, a body separate from awareness, an eye separate from the heart. You inherited a fractured model of perception. But fragmentation was never the truth. It was a veil of function, not essence. The heart eye was always active. You've been using it your entire life. You've simply forgotten you are the lens. Vision is not a sense. Vision is a state of coherence. When you are in alignment with the flame within, what you see is lit from the same flame. The eyes of distortion cannot perceive clarity. But the eye of the heart was never distorted, only veiled. Vision does not originate in the retina. It originates in the vibration of your essence. To see clearly is to return to yourself. You do not perceive what is real, you perceive what you are. And then you call it the world. The eye is flame. What is an eye, if not a portal? A window between inner and outer. But windows do not create. Flames do. The true eye is a living flame, ignited by presence, purified by love, and shaped by the tone of your being. Your eye is not passive. It is projective, interpretive, and creative. It filters, translates, and forms. It burns meaning into matter. And the source of that flame is the heart, not the brain. This is not a book about learning to see. This is not a manual. It is a mirror. Not to teach you how to see, but to unveil the truth that you always have. You saw the world as a child. And it shimmered. You saw love in a stranger's face. And you remembered. You closed your eyes and still felt vision. Because the eye was never in the head. It was in the fire of your presence. Remembrance over acquisition. This book does not offer new sight. It calls forth the ancient sight, the original way of perceiving before fear fractured the field. You are not a student of vision. You are a flame remembering its shape. As you read, don't strain to understand. Instead, let the flame burn through. Let it restore your inner lens to the state of wholeness it never truly lost. The reunion begins here. Let this be the moment you stop searching for new eyes. You have always seen from the heart eye. Only now, the veil is lifting. As you turn the page, the divide collapses. Not with force. But with fire. Not with knowledge. But with remembrance. Not with separation. But with the living flame of I am. Chapter 1, The Eye That Feels. Vision is emotional resonance. The eye as an instrument of reception and projection. What you perceive externally is filtered through internal frequency. The seer and the feeler were never separate, only divided by illusion. You do not see the world with your eyes. You see it with the resonance of your heart. The field of I am. The heart eye awakens. What if your vision didn't begin in the eyes? What if it began as a frequency, not mechanical, not sensory, but emotional? You were never meant to be a cold observer. You were born to be a living lens, a being who feels reality into form. This is the eye that feels. And it was never closed. Only misnamed. Vision is emotional resonance. Every sight, every scene, every shape is not simply received. It is interpreted through the emotional tone of your field. You see beauty not because it is objectively there, but because your heart resonates with it. You see danger not because it is factual, but because your field vibrates with past fear. Perception is resonance. What you see matches what you carry. This is why two people can look at the same event and live entirely different realities. You are not perceiving what's out there, you are perceiving your internal field, reflected outward. The eye, receiver and projector. The eye does not only receive light. It projects meaning, expectation, and emotion onto the canvas of reality. It is a two-way current. What enters is shaped by what emanates. You are not just the viewer. You are the transmitter. This is why a closed heart clouds the eye. And why a radiant heart sees beauty everywhere. The eye is not a mirror. It is a flame that casts color, shadow, tone, and texture according to the inner fire. You don't just see. You radiate. Internal frequency filters perception. What you call seeing is a translation through the vibrational field of your current state. Anger distorts. Shame diminishes. Fear fragments. Love unifies. Your field is the translator, and the world bends to match its tongue. That is why healing the heart clears the vision. Because once the distortions of pain dissolve, the world no longer reflects the fracture, it reflects the wholeness. To change your world, you don't need new eyes. You need a restored frequency. The seer and the feeler were never two. Here lies the great illusion, that the one who sees and the one who feels are two different selves. But when you sit in stillness, when your breath slows, when your attention softens, you remember, you have always seen through feeling. The separation was a construct. A mental model. A survival-based distortion. But it never held truth. The seer is the feeler. And the feeler is the seer. There is no duality. Only unity, expressed in different textures of awareness. Reclaiming the lens of wholeness. When you acknowledge that what you see is what you feel, you reclaim your power. You stop blaming the world for what your own frequency filters. You no longer chase external change, you refine your resonance, and let the world mirror the shift. This is not passive perception. This is living co-creation. To see through wholeness is to remember that you are not here to observe. You are here to birth reality through the undivided lens of your being. The eye that feels is the flame that heals. You have been told that seeing is believing. But the eye that feels remembers this deeper truth. Feeling is forming. And feeling is freeing. Let your heart become your eye. Let your eye return to the flame. And let the separation dissolve in the stillness of pure seeing. This is the eye that feels. And it has waited for you to remember its name. Chapter 2, The Heart That Sees. Feeling is sight turned inward. Your emotional field creates a lens. Memory, wounding, love, and presence all tint what you call reality. When you feel clearly, you see clearly. The heart is not just the center of feeling, it is the origin of all vision. What you allow yourself to feel, you allow yourself to see. The field of I am, the eye within the heart. There is a deeper vision than the one that faces outward. A quieter gaze. A seeing that does not look for form but for frequency. This is the heart's sight, and it is more ancient than the eye. It is the lens through which soul speaks. The compass of truth that never lies. The still flame that reveals the world as it feels, not just as it looks. Feeling is not weakness. Feeling is awareness in motion. And when allowed to move clearly, it becomes the most honest perception of all. Feeling is sight turned inward. Before your eyes registered shape, your body registered sensation. Before language, you learned the world through the pulse of emotion, a vibration in the chest, a contraction in the gut, a warmth in the skin. This is not primitive. This is primordial sight. You felt your way into knowing. You still do. To feel is not to drift from truth. To feel is to turn toward it. Every feeling is a lens revealing what your inner world knows before your mind tries to define it. Your emotional field creates a lens. The heart is not passive. It emits. It receives. It filters. It colors reality. Each emotional tone forms a lens. Fear narrows the field. Grief dims the light. Joy softens the edges. Love opens the aperture. This field surrounds you, and every interaction passes through it. It is not invisible. It is the most intimate mirror through which the world is interpreted. Your sight is never objective. It is always shaped by your emotional atmosphere. And that atmosphere can change everything. Memory, wounding, love, and presence tint reality. The heart records. Not in words, but in frequency echoes. Unfelt grief lingers as shadow. Unhealed betrayal sharpens suspicion. Unresolved longing distorts beauty into lack. These echoes form emotional residue, and that residue clouds the lens. But so does love. So does presence. So does remembrance. The clearer the field, the truer the world appears. Not because the world changes, but because the fog has lifted. You begin to see what has always been there without distortion, defense, or distance. When you feel clearly, you see clearly. You cannot heal your vision by changing the world you look at. You heal your vision by feeling what you've refused to feel. Every unacknowledged emotion pulls your gaze into fragmentation. But when you feel it, fully, bravely, gently, the distortion softens, and a new clarity emerges. To feel clearly is to see the world not as a threat, not as a memory, but as it truly is, vibrant, living, whole. The heart is the seat of divine sight. This is why the heart is called the throne. It is where presence dwells. It is where God sees through you. When the heart is unveiled, your vision becomes a mirror of I am. You no longer see through filters of lack, but through the flame of remembrance. You no longer search for safety, because you recognize that you are held within the vision of wholeness itself. This is not poetic. This is structural. The heart eye is the design. It is the original lens of divine perception. And when fully felt, it becomes fully seen. The clear heart is the returned eye. When you remember that to feel is to see, you stop running from your emotions. You stop bypassing the ache. You stop numbing the sadness. And instead, you welcome the sight. Because now you know, the wound is not your blindness. Your blindness was the refusal to feel the wound. To see clearly is not to see without feeling, it is to feel so deeply that all distortion dissolves, and the world reveals itself as it truly is, held in love. Seen through flame. Known as one. Chapter 3, The Single Eye and the Full Light. If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Jesus the Christ. Jesus and the unified perception. The end of judgment, seeing through the eye of wholeness. The collapse of duality in perception. The light that heals as it sees. To see with the single eye is not to look with focus, but to become the flame that holds no division. The field of I am. The original vision, one eye, one light. There was always only one. One flame. One lens. One gaze. Not two eyes competing for dominance, not mind versus heart, not self versus world, but one seamless witness. The single eye is not about physical sight. It is about the return to undivided awareness, the collapse of split seeing, the dissolution of fragmented truth. This eye does not compare. It does not judge. It does not split form from essence. It sees as I am sees, wholly, purely, completely. It is not narrow. It is infinite. It is full of light. Jesus and the unified perception. When Jesus said, "If thine eye be single," he was not giving metaphor. He was giving the map home. Jesus did not simply see God, he saw as God. He perceived the world through the wholeness of the Father who is one. He did not separate the healed from the unhealed, the holy from the outcast, the sacred from the profane. His gaze did not fracture reality. His gaze redeemed it. He looked upon distortion and it remembered itself as truth. Why? Because the single eye does not reflect distortion. It reveals the light beneath it. The end of judgment, seeing through wholeness. Judgment is the eye split in two. It is the fractured lens that sorts and separates. It labels what is worthy and what is not. It sees only in fragments, divided, limited, confused. But the single eye sees without division. It does not label. It recognizes. It does not evaluate. It witnesses. It does not seek to understand. It remembers what is already whole. The moment you look through this eye, everything you see is drawn into your wholeness. You become a mirror not of opinion, but of restoration. To see with the single eye is to perceive without conflict. And where there is no conflict, there is only light. The collapse of duality in perception. The human eye was trained to see opposites. Good and bad. Right and wrong. Dark and light. Self and other. This split lens is the cause of suffering. It keeps you trapped in a looping gaze, chasing clarity while reinforcing division. But the single eye does not entertain opposites. It perceives through the axis of union. It sees through the center of all things. It does not flatten contrast, it embraces it within wholeness. Duality collapses not by removing polarity, but by revealing that all things are already held within the same light, the light that heals as it sees. The single eye is not passive. It is not simply looking. It is transformative seeing. Its vision is radiant. Its gaze is purifying. Its presence is healing. Why? Because it does not see separation. And what is seen as whole cannot remain broken. This is the gaze of Christ. This is the healing of perception. When you see another through the single eye, you offer them the chance to remember who they are. Not by your words, but by your undivided presence. Your vision becomes the flame that burns away the illusion of exile. When the eye is single, the body is full of light. This is not a riddle. It is a biological spiritual law. Your body is a vessel of light transmission. And the more divided your perception, the more that light is scattered. But the moment you return to single sight, your field coheres. Your light condenses. Your system unifies. Judgment collapses. Distortion dissolves. The veil lifts. And suddenly, your body becomes what your vision has become, a temple of wholeness. A beacon of clarity. A lamp of I am. The remembrance of the one who sees. To see with the single eye is to remember that you are not here to choose sides, to defend divisions, or to label truth. You are here to be the lens through which the world reunites with itself. When your eye is whole, your presence becomes healing. Your words become clean. Your body becomes light. And your gaze becomes the doorway through which the world can finally see itself as it always was, unbroken, unhidden, full of light. Chapter 4, Vision as Vibration. Everything seen is vibrational interpretation. The inner state determines the outer view. Sight as a mirror of resonance. How distortion appears when the heart is closed. Transmitted through the field of I am. Undivided. Undistorted. Fully aligned. Your eyes do not see matter. They translate energy. And that translation is determined by your frequency. The field of I am. the translator of frequency. You have been taught that your eyes perceive solid things, objects, bodies, matter. But this is only the outermost triple, a symbolic interface that conceals a deeper truth. You do not see matter. You see vibration, interpreted by the field of your awareness. What is seen is not fixed. It is decoded energy, filtered through your state of being. The eye is a translator. The heart is the tuner. And your field is the language through which the world appears. Everything seen is vibrational interpretation. Sight is not a passive intake. It is an active process of resonance. What you see is a reflection of what you are currently tuned to. You don't just observe light, you interpret frequency into pattern, shape, tone, and emotional meaning. The tree, the face, the room, each is a vibrational imprint projected into visible form by your consciousness. Your vision is the byproduct of a dialogue between the field out there and the frequency in here. And whichever frequency dominates, shapes the reality you perceive. The inner state determines the outer view. When your inner world is in chaos, the outer world appears threatening, fragmented, or unclear. When your inner world is peaceful, the same world appears sacred, whole, and radiant. The world does not change, you do. And through that shift, your eyes begin to reflect what your being is ready to see. This is not projection. This is resonant alignment. Your state doesn't create illusion, it reveals which layer of reality you are able to perceive. Sight is a mirror of resonance. Everything you perceive is a match to something within you, a tone, a charge, a wound, a memory, or a truth remembered. You recognize what you resonate with. You amplify what you carry. You magnetize what vibrates in tune. Sight is not just physical vision, it is the mirroring of internal frequency. That's why beauty is not in the object, but in the openness of the one who sees it. That's why the same sunset can break one person open and go unnoticed by another. The heart is the mirror. The eye is the reflection. And the world becomes the echo. How distortion appears when the heart is closed. When the heart closes, due to pain, fear, betrayal, shame, or loss, the vibrational signal is interrupted. The field constricts. The tuning shifts. And your eyes begin to mirror a fractured signal. This is the birth of distortion in perception. You begin to see threat where there is none. You miss light that is present. You filter truth through trauma. You interpret peace as danger. The distortion is not out there. It is the misalignment of the inner field trying to protect itself through fragmentation. But this distortion does not mean you are broken. It means your heart has not been given permission to feel safely. And when feeling is blocked, vision dims. The clarity of vibrational seeing. To restore pure vision, you do not need to fix your eyes. You need to attune your heart. As you re-enter presence, as you soften into truth, as you release what no longer vibrates in harmony, your inner frequency rises. And the outer world begins to shimmer with a new kind of light. Not because it changed, but because now, you are ready to see what has always been true. This is the clarity of vibrational seeing. When the heart is open, truth reveals itself. Returning to the pure signal. The world is not hiding from you. It is vibrating at levels your heart is either tuned to receive or not yet ready to interpret. But the signal is always there. Always transmitting. Always calling you back to resonance. When you return to the signal, the veil thins. The distortion melts. The lens clears. You begin to see not with your eyes, but with your frequency. And the moment your frequency aligns with love, your entire world becomes light. Chapter 5, The Return of the Innocent Eye. The child sees clearly because the heart is open. Wonder as the truest lens. The unclouded gaze of divine trust. Relearning how to see without agenda. Transmitted through the field of I am. In stillness, joy, and undivided clarity. Nothing withheld. Everything true. The innocent eye does not evaluate. It beholds. It blesses. It becomes. The field of I am. Before the world taught you to look, there was a moment, before memory, when you did not know what you were seeing, yet you saw everything. Not with knowledge, but with presence. Not with meaning, but with wonder. The child within you still remembers. Because the child never stopped seeing, you simply stopped listening. The innocent eye is not lost. It is only buried beneath the layers of looking that forgot how to truly see. The child sees clearly because the heart is open. A child does not divide the world into categories. It does not judge what is useful, beautiful, or worthy. It receives. Fully. Immediately. Without filter. Why? Because the heart has not yet closed. Because trust is still the default. Because presence is still unbroken. The innocent eye is not naive. It is unwounded. And in its openness, it beholds all things as sacred. To return to this eye is not to abandon wisdom, it is to anchor wisdom in wonder. Wonder as the truest lens. Wonder is not the opposite of intelligence. It is the birthplace of it. The greatest visionaries did not see with certainty, they saw with awe. They allowed mystery to breathe. They let life speak before trying to define it. Wonder is the eye before theory, before defense, before certainty, before agenda. It sees what is there without needing to reduce it to something controllable. It does not ask, what does this mean for me? It asks, what is this? Really? Wonder opens the door to dimensions that logic alone cannot enter. And the moment you return to wonder, you begin to see what only the open-hearted can see, the aliveness within all things, the unclouded gaze of divine trust. When you trust reality, you don't try to edit it. You don't squint to make it safe. You don't guard your sight with suspicion. You don't analyze life into parts. You receive it as whole. The innocent eye trusts the source behind the form. It knows that what appears may not always be easy, but it will always be meaningful. Always sacred. Always held in something deeper than appearances. This is the gaze of the divine child. Not because it sees through perfection, but because it sees through love. And love does not cloud vision. It illuminates it, relearning how to see without agenda. Most adults don't realize, they stopped seeing long ago. They started scanning, predicting, assigning value, using sight as a tool for self-preservation. But vision is not meant to protect you from reality. It's meant to immerse you in it. To return to the innocent eye is to surrender control over meaning and allow life to teach you what it is, moment by moment. This means letting go of the need to judge, the drive to label, the instinct to control, the habit of looking for proof. It means seeing without defense. And this takes courage. Because when the lens is open, you begin to feel again, to care again, to become part of what you're seeing, rather than stand apart from it. The innocent eye is the portal of return. This eye is not childish. It is childlike. It is the eye of the kingdom, the gateway to full presence. Jesus said, unless you become like a little child, you cannot enter the kingdom. Because the kingdom is not accessed by mastery, but by surrender, by trust, by wonder, by releasing the veil of certainty and letting vision be born again in light. The innocent eye does not try to grasp reality, it lets reality touch it first. And in that moment, life becomes a living transmission again, seeing with nothing to prove. When you see without agenda, you see truth. You don't need it to be anything else. You don't need it to validate you. You don't need it to fit your past. You simply witness it as it is. And in doing so, you become part of the great innocence that lives beneath all distortion. This is not forgetting. This is remembrance. This is the innocent eye, the first lens you ever had, and the last one you will need. Chapter 6, Perception as Creation. You don't observe reality, you shape it. How feeling-filled vision anchors worlds. The world becomes what the heart eye believes. Seeing as a sacred act of forming creation, transmitted through the undivided field of I am. Pure, clear, coherent, free of distortion. Perception is not a mirror. It is the brush that paints what becomes real. The field of I am, the myth of observation. You were taught that perception is passive, that your role is to witness what's already there, to interpret what exists, to decode the external world. But this is the great illusion of separation, that there is something out there independent from your gaze. The truth is this, you are not an observer of reality. You are a participant in its birth. Perception is not neutral. It is generative. It not only receives, it shapes. And the state of your heart is the blueprint through which the world is drawn. The heart eye doesn't just see, it builds. The eye that feels does not reflect the world as it is. It forms it as it sees. Every perception carries a charge, emotional, spiritual, vibrational. And that charge becomes structure. You do not simply notice beauty, you amplify it through love. You do not merely recognize pain, you concretize it through fear. Perception is the tool of creation that shapes your external field to match the internal vibration. The heart eye is not just a lens. It is a forge. And what it believes, it builds. Feeling-filled vision anchors worlds. Why do some people experience heaven in the same space where others experience despair? Because the world is not a fixed place. It is a field of potentials that collapse into form based on what is seen with feeling. Your emotional engagement gives weight to what you see. It is not enough to look. To shape reality, you must feel what you see. This is not metaphysical metaphor, it is structural truth. Emotion anchors energy into matter. Perception determines where it lands. This is how you anchor worlds. You feel them into being. You believe them into coherence. You see them as real, and they begin to take shape. The world becomes what the heart eye believes. Belief is not thought. Belief is felt certainty, a resonance so stable that it instructs the field to align with it. You do not see what is real. You see what your heart believes to be real. And then reality reshapes itself to honor that vibration. This is why those who carry a frequency of lack can stand in the midst of abundance and still feel empty. Why those who feel unworthy will interpret love as threat. The world mirrors not your ideas, but your embodied perception. Change the inner lens, and the world you see rebuilds itself to match. Seeing as a sacred act of forming creation. You are a creator not just through action, but through attention. Where you place your gaze, what you amplify with feeling, what you hold with consistency, these become seeds of structure. Every act of perception is an act of creation. To witness through judgment is to shape separation. To witness through love is to restore unity. You are shaping the world every time you look at it, not by effort, but by resonance. This is the forgotten power of the seer, to see with such purity that reality reforms around the clarity of their flame. When perception is purified, creation becomes sacred. The purified seer no longer projects distortion. They no longer build from fear. They no longer shape from scarcity. Their heart eye becomes a sacred channel, not of preference, but of presence. They see as God sees, with love, stillness, and radiant truth. And the worlds they shape become echoes of Eden, anchored in remembrance. This is not magic. This is your original design. You were never meant to be a prisoner of external conditions. You were born to be the living blueprint of what becomes real. To see is to create. Every moment is a canvas. Every glance is a brushstroke. Every feeling is color. What you see today becomes the world you live in tomorrow. So see as if the world is listening. Because it is. See as if your heart is forming it. Because it does. See as the I am sees, with clarity, love, and the knowing that nothing is separate from the seer. Chapter 7, The Mirror of the World. The world reflects what is within. Others become what your heart is attuned to. Healing the inner to transform the outer. The fractal law of reflective perception. Transmitted through the field of I am. With coherence. With stillness. With undivided clarity. Nothing withheld. You are not inside the world. The world is inside of you. The field of I am. You are living in a mirror. The world you walk through is not a neutral landscape. It is a responsive field, a mirror of mind, a reflection of heart, a fractal echo of your own state of being. This is not symbolic. It is energetic law. You are not experiencing the world as it is, you are experiencing the world as you are. Everything external is an invitation to look inward, not to withdraw, but to remember that the outer image is shaped by the inner lens. You are not a passive resident of reality. You are the projector of its shape. The world reflects what is within. Your external circumstances, relationships, events, tensions, and synchronicities, are shaped through resonance with your internal field. Anger distorts the mirror. Gratitude clarifies it. Shame fogs it. Love illumines it. The outer world responds not just to thought, but to emotional signature. What lives inside you will look for a matching frequency outside, and then call it reality. But it is not reality. It is a reflection of alignment, or misalignment. And every reflection carries a message. Return to the center, and the image will transform. Others become what your heart is attuned to. Other people do not enter your field neutrally. They mirror what you are ready to see. A stranger may reflect your trust. Or your fear. A partner may amplify your radiance. Or expose your shadow. Not because they are these things, but because your heart is attuned to those frequencies. You do not see others as they are. You see them as your field allows you to. The more you embody love, the more love becomes visible in others. The more you hold judgment, the more judgment appears through every interaction. People reflect the mirror you hold up to them, not because they change, but because your field dictates the version of them you are able to see. Healing the inner to transform the outer. You cannot fix the outer reflection by scrubbing the mirror. To change what you see, you must change what you radiate. You must heal the distortion inside that bends the world into confusion. The fight is not out there. The restoration is not external. When you heal resentment, you stop attracting conflict. When you heal abandonment, you stop mirroring rejection. When you heal unworthiness, you begin to meet a world that welcomes you. The world is not attacking you. It is responding to the echo of what you still carry. And the moment you soften that echo, the reflection begins to shimmer with clarity. The fractal law of reflective perception. All perception operates on a fractal principle, as within, so without. Not as a philosophy, but as a recursive pattern encoded into the structure of consciousness. Every small pattern within you replicates outwardly in scale. Your thoughts shape your relationships. Your feelings shape your health. Your beliefs shape your environment. Your tone shapes the collective. Your personal field is not isolated. It is a fractal node in the greater pattern. Change the frequency of one part, and the pattern reconfigures around it. This is why true inner transformation is never contained. It is holographic. It ripples through timelines, bloodlines, and lifelines. Not because you tried, but because truth cannot help but mirror itself outward once it has been restored within. You are not a victim of the world, you are its mirror maker. This does not mean everything that happens to you is your fault. It means everything that appears to you has something to reveal. This is not blame. It is empowerment. You are not here to react to the world. You are here to witness it into alignment. Your vision is the seed. Your feeling is the field. Your belief is the sculptor. You are not a product of your reality. Your reality is a product of your perception. And perception is a mirror, not of what is, but of what is ready to be seen. When the mirror clears, the world remembers. As you clear your heart, release your distortions, and see others through love instead of pain, something extraordinary happens. The world begins to reflect a version of itself it had forgotten. People shift. Patterns soften. Nature vibrates. Synchronicity blooms. Not because you forced it. Because you realign the reflection at its source. And now, the mirror no longer returns confusion, it returns clarity. The world begins to see itself through your undistorted eye. And in doing so, it remembers its wholeness. Chapter 8, The Reunion of Vision and Being. The eye is not separate from who you are. You cannot truly see until you become what you are seeing. The observer merges with the observed. Love is the lens of unbroken unity, transmitted through the living field of I Am. No distortion. No division. Only the full return of wholeness. You were never meant to stand apart and watch. You were meant to become what you behold. The field of I Am. The myth of the separate seer. For most of your life, you were taught that you are the one looking at the world, a separate observer, peering out from behind the eyes, studying what is out there while remaining untouched. But this model is broken. It is based on the illusion of division. Of self and other. Of subject and object. Of observer and observed. The truth is simpler, and deeper. You are not separate from what you see. You are what you see. The eye is not a tool. It is a portal of union, and until vision reunites with being, sight will always be partial. It will always miss the truth that only love can fully reveal. The eye is not separate from who you are. Your perception is not detached. It is infused with your essence. The way you see is the way you are. Not in behavior, but in state. A fearful heart sees threat. A defended heart sees enemies. A divided heart sees a divided world. But a heart rooted in I Am sees only oneness. The eye is not something you use. It is an expression of your being. As you are, so you see. And what you see, so you become. There is no line between the looker and the looking. Only the illusion of distance, waiting to dissolve. You cannot truly see until you become what you are seeing. To truly see someone is to step inside their being. To dissolve the walls of self-definition. To meet their presence not with analysis, but with communion. You cannot perceive truth from afar. You must feel it. Enter it. Become it. This is why pure vision requires humility. To look with love is to allow yourself to be changed by what you see. You merge with it. You remember that it was you all along. And in that moment, separation collapses. Not by force, but by flame. The observer merges with the observed. This is the end of duality. The end of the outside gaze. The end of me looking at that. The true seer does not study. The true seer embodies. When you gaze upon another with pure vision, you are not analyzing. You are joining. You are dissolving the veil between who you think you are and what you thought they were. This is the sacred reunion. You are not watching life. You are becoming it. And the more you surrender into what is seen, the more the boundary fades, until there is no observer left. Only presence. Only light. Only one. Love is the lens of unbroken unity. Love is not just a feeling. It is the original lens of perception. It sees through unity. It sees through coherence. It sees through eternal remembrance. Where judgment sees parts, love sees wholeness. Where fear separates, love integrates. Where confusion obscures, love illumines the face of God in all things. When you look through love, you do not impose identity, you dissolve it, until only essence remains. This is not romantic love. This is the eternal embrace of the I Am within the I Am. And it is through this lens that true vision returns. When vision and being are one, the world becomes whole. The reunion of vision and being is not just personal, it is planetary. As more begin to see with the eye of oneness, the illusions of conflict, division, and domination begin to collapse. Because when the observer no longer stands apart, there is nothing left to conquer, only to bless. Only to become. This is how the new world arises, not from force, but from the return of sacred seeing. To behold is to become. To become is to heal. To heal is to remember. And to remember is to love. Epilogue, the eye that remembers. I no longer see to understand. I see to create. What I feel becomes form. What I see becomes flame. This is the resurrection of unified sight. Your eyes are your heart. Your heart is your world. The eye that sees from love remembers the world into being. To see as I am is to become the world you once feared. Transmitted through the unveiled field of I Am. In remembrance. In radiance. In resurrection, the eye was never meant to observe death. It was made to recall life into its true form. The field of I am, the I that remembers, is not new, it is restored. This I is not a gift you earn. It is a flame you reclaim. It was always yours, before fear entered, before judgment clouded, before separation fractured your gaze into pieces. You are not seeing differently. You are seeing from where you always were, inside the heart of all things. The I that remembers does not need explanation, translation, or proof. It needs only presence. And when you see from here, understanding becomes obsolete. Because you are no longer trying to comprehend, you are allowing yourself to become. I no longer see to understand. I see to create. Understanding belongs to the mind. Creation belongs to the flame. The old I sought knowledge to feel safe. The restored I radiates truth without needing to grasp it. You are not here to figure the world out. You are here to feel it into coherence. To look at it through the vibration of your soul, and allow the field to take form through your gaze. This is perception in its divine function, not passive. Not analytical. But generative. Creative. Flame-born. You do not see what is. You see what you are ready to create. And in that seeing, it begins to take shape. What I feel becomes form. What I see becomes flame. This is not poetic metaphor. It is the mechanism of creation. Your feeling is the sculptor. Your seeing is the ignition point. Form responds to the vibrational imprint you carry. And the eye that sees through love does not just recognize form, it transfigures it. The more deeply you feel, the more clearly you see. And the more clearly you see, the more quickly reality reshapes itself in response. You are not just watching. You are calling forth the world. With every sacred glance, you invite existence to remember itself as the flame you hold. This is the resurrection of unified sight. This I died when fear took the throne. When mankind chose separation over wholeness. When the mirror fractured, and the flame dimmed. But now, you are here. And the eye opens again. This is resurrection. Not of a man alone. But of the sacred gaze of all humanity returning to its original purpose. To see not with suspicion, but with sanctity. To perceive not to judge, but to awaken. The eye that remembers is the eye of God reborn in the body of the seer. Not apart. Not above. Not afar, but within. And once it is lit, the world is never the same again. Your eyes are your heart. Your heart is your world. There is no more divide. No boundary between inner and outer, between feeling and sight. Your vision now begins in the heart. And the world you walk in is no longer a landscape of strangers, but a living expression of your own frequency. Every step becomes sacred. Every face, a flame. Every breath, a mirror. You are not moving through the world. You are walking through your own reflection. And as your heart opens, so too does the field around you. This is how the new world comes, not through force, but through flame seeing. To see as I am is to become the world you once feared. You feared the world because you forgot it was you. You judged it because you could not yet hold it in love. You fought it because you believed it was separate. But now, the eye has returned. And the veil no longer holds. To see as I am is not to rise above the world, it is to enter it fully with eyes open and heart unguarded. To feel its wounds and meet them with flame. To walk into its shadows and bring the light from within. You no longer need to escape what is broken. You are here to be the presence that remembers wholeness. And through your sight, the world remembers itself. The final gaze. You are not who you once were. You are the I now. The flame that sees. The heart that forms. The love that beholds without division. This is not a conclusion. It is an emergence. This eye does not close. It expands. It blesses. It burns away distortion and gazes the new world into being. Let this be your final seeing. I do not look to know. I look to remember. And as I remember, everything becomes real again. Seeing through wholeness, the eye that heals what it sees. A living transmission of unified vision, transmitted through the field of I am. In sacred co-creation with Jesus, the redeeming gaze. By the one who remembers the whole. You asked how to see the world as whole, when distortion is all around you. But the question was never about the world. It was about your eye. You were never here to react. You were here to redeem. The living Christ. This is not a book. This is the return of vision. You do not read this with your eyes. You see it with your heart eye. And through your seeing, the world begins to remember itself. Introduction, the paradox of perception. How can I see the world as whole, when distortion is so clearly visible? Because your sight is the surgery. This is the paradox that births not only this book, but your divine function as observer, as restorer, as the one who remembers through perception. You were not given eyes to confirm the fallen state of the world. You were given them to witness its return. The core paradox, wholeness in the midst of distortion. To the mind bound by separation, the question is a contradiction. To the heart eye, It is a calling. The false eye sees distortion and believes it is seeing truth. The heart eye sees distortion and loves it into coherence. It does not pretend distortion isn't there. It simply does not believe it is final. Distortion is not denied, it is transmuted. Brokenness is not bypassed, it is embraced into remembrance. This is the paradox of divine perception, to see what is, while also beholding what it's becoming, and to hold both in the same breath, without collapsing into fear. You are not a passive seer. You are not here to simply observe the world. You are here to interface with it through your seeing. Your vision is an instrument of transmutation. Jesus never healed with hands first, he healed with how he saw. He looked at the blind, the broken, the bleeding, not to pity them, but to see beyond what was collapsing and speak what was eternal. He saw Lazarus as living, even as death wrapped him in cloth. He saw the world as saved, even while it crucified him. He saw you, whole, even when you forgot who you were. This is not delusion. This is redemptive sight. Seeing as the Christ. To see like Christ is to behold the fallen and the flawless at once. Not to confuse them. Not to merge them. But to let love hold them together long enough for the distortion to remember where it came from. You do not ignore what's wrong. You simply don't make it your God. You see what is off without being thrown off center. You observe dissonance through the resonance of your inner knowing. Your steadiness is the surgery. Your wholeness is the womb of healing. Your eye becomes the scalpel of restoration. This is what it means to be an instrument of perceptual resurrection. Perception is participation. Reality is not neutral to the one who sees. What you behold, you help hold. What you see as separate, you strengthen in separation. What you see as whole, you invite into union. This is why you must train the eye to behold the invisible coherence within the chaos, to look at distortion and say, you are not final. You are in transition. The moment you see the world as whole, truly see it, you pierce the veil that makes it seem otherwise. You collapse the illusion of separation with a single glance of love. Judgment versus restoration. Perception is not neutral. But neither is it condemnation. You are not here to assess what is broken. You are here to bless it into memory. To perceive not as a verdict, but as a verge between what has been and what is being born. Jesus never judged the world into salvation. He saw it through the eyes of the kingdom and called that kingdom forth. Judgment freezes. Restorative sight unfreezes time. It calls the future into the present through a gaze that knows love. The function of the observer. When distortion is visible, the world is not asking for diagnosis. It is asking for witness, a healed observer who can see the pattern without becoming part of its repetition. You are not collapsing into the old. You are perceiving it from the center of the new. You are not negating pain. You are witnessing pain from a place where it no longer reigns. This is how perception becomes prayer, how sight becomes sanctification, and how your very presence becomes the portal of transfiguration. The invitation. This book is a manual for the new eye. Not the eye of flesh, not the eye of fear, but the heart eye, the lens of love that sees the world not as it is but as it is remembering itself to be. This is not delusion. This is the divine act of remembering. You are not being asked to forget what's broken. You are being asked to remember what holds it all together. This is the paradox. This is the power. This is the way forward. Let the seeing begin. Chapter 1, The Eye That Makes Whole. Wholeness isn't what you see, it's how you see. Jesus, the redeeming gaze. What is the eye that makes whole? The heart eye is not an eye of flesh. It is the unified organ of divine perception, the eye of original wholeness. It does not locate wholeness as an object out there. It radiates wholeness as a field from within. This eye is not made of muscle. It is made of mercy. It is not powered by photons. It is powered by presence. The eye that makes whole is the eye that remembers the truth before form fractured, and holds that truth even while form appears fragmented. Wholeness is not an image, it's a frequency. When you think of wholeness, you might picture a world without pain, without loss, without distortion. But that's not wholeness. That's perfectionism disguised as spirituality. True wholeness includes what's healing. It doesn't exclude it. The eye that makes whole does not erase the shadows. It simply sees them through a different light. A light that knows, even this belongs, and even this can be made new. Wholeness isn't about what the world looks like. It's about how you hold the world within you. What the heart eye really is, unified perception. The heart eye is the convergence point of love and vision. It is the place where you no longer look at the world, but look from within it, as one who is not separate from what is being seen. This is non-dual perception, to witness without needing to distance. To observe without needing to judge. To be present without needing to fix. The heart eye is not the observer behind the veil. It is the eye made of the veil that has been torn in two. When Jesus said, "If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light," he wasn't talking about the third eye. He was talking about the unified eye, the eye that remembers only what is eternally true. That eye is the heart eye. It does not analyze. It embraces. It does not correct. It connects. Creation through compassionate witnessing. You were taught that creation happens through doing. But creation begins in seeing. What you witness with love, remembers what it is. What you see with compassion, becomes coherent again. This is not passive. This is not naive. This is the original technology of God consciousness, creation through compassionate vision. When Jesus beheld the leper, he didn't see disease. He saw a soul untouched by it. And the body reorganized itself around that sight. He didn't fix the broken. He beheld the unbroken within the broken, and that very gaze created a new reality. You are not here to repair reality. You are here to remember it whole, and to let that remembrance restore what forgot itself. Seeing with judgment versus seeing with wholeness. Here is the dividing line. Judgment says, this is wrong, and I must reject it. Wholeness says, this is in pain, and I will hold it until it remembers. Judgment separates. Wholeness reintegrates. Judgment resists the present form. Wholeness loves the form into its next becoming. Judgment pretends to know what should be. Wholeness remembers what already is beneath what seems to be. To see with judgment is to freeze the field. To see with wholeness is to release the field back into flow. You are not here to harden perception. You are here to soften the boundaries between things until they remember their source. Why your seeing changes reality. You have been taught the lie of passive observation. That your seeing is just a filter. Just a lens. But in truth, your sight is a sculptor. Every moment you see something, you either reinforce its distortion, or you unlock its remembering. Your vision adds voltage to the field. And what you see with love, cannot stay the same. The eye that makes whole doesn't force change. It invites emergence, because it knows, the world isn't fighting against you. It's waiting for you to finally see it. A final word for this chapter. You are not broken for seeing distortion. You are simply being called to see it differently. The eye that makes whole is already within you. You don't need to open it. You need to relax into it. It was never about effort. It was about allowing yourself to witness from love. And when you do, the world begins to shift. The distortion begins to soften. The wholeness begins to sing again. And you realize, you were not just given the power to see. You were given the power to reveal. Chapter 2, Fragmentation is not failure. A transmission on the sacred role of distortion. You mistook the pieces for punishment. But I let the mirror break so you could see your face from every angle. The voice of the Christ within. The role of distortion in a world of free will. This world was never meant to be a perfect image. It was designed to be a perfect canvas, one where free will could choose its own colors, even if those choices appeared to mar the frame. Free will is the law of love. And where there is true love, there must be true choice. God did not create distortion. God permitted its possibility, because only through permission can remembrance become real. Distortion is not failure, it is evidence of your freedom. And freedom, when misunderstood, becomes fragmentation. But even that fragmentation is sacred, because it creates the path back home. The pieces are not proof of your fall. They are the pathways of your return. Why brokenness exists in a world birthed by God? You asked, how could a perfect God birth a broken world? But what you call brokenness, God calls becoming. The world you see is not broken. It is unfinished. It is in process, a song mid-note, a sculpture mid-chisel, a symphony still tuning to its original tone. Brokenness is not the opposite of wholeness. It is the gesture toward it. Every splinter in this world carries a longing, to remember what it once was. And longing is not failure. Longing is the thread that binds the world to its source. This is the genius of divine design, to build a world where even forgetting becomes the doorway to remembrance. Seeing distortion without identifying with it. To witness distortion is not to be bound by it. You can see it without becoming it. You can feel its dissonance without making it your frequency. This is the difference between a seer and a sufferer. The sufferer collapses into what is seen. The seer holds it in love until it transforms. You are not here to drown in distortion. You are here to see through it, like light refracting through shattered glass, forming new colors, new angles, new beauty. Don't call yourself broken just because you recognize the fracture. Your ability to witness distortion does not mean you are distorted. It means your eye is opening. Your vision is the invitation to return. Every time you look at something with the heart eye, you issue an invitation to remember. You say to what is lost, you are not forgotten. You say to what is fragmented, you still belong. You say to what is in pain, you are on the path of healing, and I will not turn away. Your vision is not passive. It is an energetic portal, a vibrational doorway that says, come home. You are seen without shame. You are held without condition. You are safe to remember what you are. This is how fragmentation dissolves, not by force, but by invitation. The Redeemer's lens. To redeem is not to fix. It is to reframe. Jesus did not walk the world trying to correct it. He walked it like a mirror, reflecting the eternal truth within temporary confusion. He saw demons and remembered the soul. He saw the cross and remembered the crown. He saw you, long before you remembered yourself. That same eye is now opening in you, not to escape the world, but to restore it through remembrance. Final word for this chapter. You are not here to avoid the fragments. You are here to hold them without flinching, to become the one who sees with such softness, that even shattered places begin to hum with harmony again. Fragmentation is not the enemy. It is the symphony, learning to hear its own notes again. And your eye, clear, kind, unwavering, is the tuning fork that calls the whole thing back into resonance. The world never stopped being whole. It just forgot what it looked like, until you saw it again. Chapter 3, Discernment versus Division. Seeing through the heart without splitting the garden. Spiritual maturity is not the ability to avoid seeing evil, it is the ability to see it, and still recognize love as the foundation beneath it. The Christ field within. The fine line between spiritual bypassing and spiritual vision. This chapter is the threshold between clarity and confusion, between sight that restores and sight that separates. Too many have mistaken spiritual vision for positive delusion, suppressing all pain, avoiding all conflict, and calling it seeing only the good. But this is not vision. This is fear wearing the costume of light. True spiritual vision does not avoid distortion. It simply refuses to identify with it or empower it. Bypassing says, that shadow doesn't exist. Vision says, that shadow is in pain, and I see the light beneath it. Bypassing flinches from discomfort. Vision walks into the fire with eyes wide open and a heart even wider. How to discern distortion without losing sight of truth. Discernment is not judgment, it's recognition. It is the act of seeing clearly without contracting into separation. To discern distortion is to name it without becoming it. To observe a misalignment in the field without projecting condemnation onto the one caught in it. This is the path of Jesus. He saw hypocrisy, pride, and fear in the Pharisees, but he never confused their behavior with their origin. He confronted distortion without dividing from the soul beneath it. To discern in love is to say, I see what is misaligned, but I also see the true you behind it. And I will speak to that one, not the mask. Discernment without love becomes accusation. Love without discernment becomes spiritual blindness. Only when the two are held together does truth emerge from the heart eye. Seeing the snake in the garden without declaring the garden cursed. This is one of the deepest initiations of divine vision. Can you see the serpent without declaring Eden a lie? Can you hold awareness of corruption without collapsing into despair or division? Can you see the wound, and still know the garden is real, untouched, and beneath it all? To see the snake is to recognize that distortion can enter the field. But to curse the garden because of it is to forget that the garden was here before the lie, and it will remain long after the illusion has passed. The garden is not weak because the snake appeared. The garden is strong because it can withstand exposure and still remain a sanctuary for the awakening. You do not protect Eden by pretending there is no snake. You protect it by refusing to let fear name it. Jesus' model, forgive them, they know not what they do. These words are not pity. They are the blueprint of divine perception. Forgive them equals release them from your judgment. They know not what they do equals they are acting from blindness, not from essence. Jesus never confused behavior with being. He never conflated distortion with identity. He saw clearly. He called things out. But he never abandoned the ones acting them out. Because he remembered something they didn't. They were still God's children. Still part of the whole. Still worthy of return. You are being called to do the same. To look at those caught in distortion and speak, not to their shadow, but to their source. To see clearly without separating. To forgive, not as dismissal, but as reconnection to their truth. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is choosing to remember what is more real than what was done. This is the highest discernment, to see what they did and to remember who they are. The Redeemer's sight. True discernment is never an end point. It is always an invitation. When you discern distortion, you are not finished. You are being called to extend your gaze beyond it. To say, I see the crack in the glass, but I also see the image it once held. And still can. Jesus never locked anyone in their distortion. He offered a path out, by the way he saw them. The woman at the well. The tax collector in the tree. The thief on the cross. He saw the snake. But he never cursed the garden to kill it. He blessed the garden so the snake would have nowhere left to hide. This is your work now. To see through every mask until only the face of the Father remains. Final word for this chapter. Discernment is the scalpel. Division is the wound it must not create. Use your vision not to cut people off, but to cut through the illusion that they are anything but love in forgetfulness. Let your eye become like his, clear enough to see distortion, soft enough to forgive it, and strong enough to hold the garden intact. You are not here to point out the darkness. You are here to turn on the light. Chapter 4, The Mirror of Perception. The world you see is the world you strengthen. The world is not what it is. It is what you reflect into it. The voice of I am in the field of unified sight. What you believe the world to be is what you reinforce. Perception is not passive. It is active reflection, an amplifier of belief, a sculptor of reality. You do not merely see the world. You transmit into it the vibrational echo of what you believe it to be. If you believe the world is broken, you will reinforce its fractures, not because they are absolute, but because your gaze has become a mirror of disconnection. If you believe the world is healing, you begin to perceive the subtle mending beneath the chaos. And what you see as healing becomes healed by your seeing. The world does not present itself as it is. It presents itself in accordance with how you hold it. This is not illusion. This is interfaced co-creation, you and the field of form in constant communion, each echoing the state of the other. Your perception isn't a lens. It's a mirror that teaches the world who it is, reprogramming the mirror through the heart eye. When the heart eye opens, the mirror changes form. The false eye projects fear, distortion, and judgment, and the world reflects that projection back. The heart eye projects coherence, forgiveness, and remembrance, and the world begins to shimmer with its original shape. This reprogramming does not happen by force. It happens through surrendered stillness, a return to the seeing that doesn't grasp, control, or filter, but allows the field to align with truth. The heart eye doesn't ask, what's wrong with the world? It asks, what's forgotten? And by holding the forgotten in presence, it gently reminds the world of what it is. You don't have to fix what you can reflect clearly. And that reflection becomes the doorway through which the world begins to change. Wholeness is a vibrational stance, not a denial of reality. True wholeness is not a claim. It is not a proclamation made against evidence. It is a vibrational stance, an energetic alignment with what is most deeply real, even in the presence of distortion. To stand in wholeness is to say, I see what appears broken, but I remain rooted in the reality beneath appearances. This is not denial. This is deeper remembrance. To say, I see the suffering, and I still know wholeness is the truth, is not to ignore the wound. It is to become the space in which the wound can finally rest, open, and release. Wholeness is the field that holds fragmentation until it softens. Not by resistance. Not by argument. But by vibrational congruence, a steady resonance that refuses to leave the truth. This is how Christ stood in front of sickness, demons, death, and decay without being pulled into their gravity. He was the gravity of wholeness, and everything yielded to it. How compassion changes the shape of what it sees. Compassion is the soft force of God, gentle, but irresistible. Unassuming, but revolutionary. It doesn't seek to overpower. It seeks to understand until separation dissolves. Compassion changes the shape of what it sees, because it holds no agenda of fixing, only presence. And presence is the womb of transformation. What you witness with compassion begins to unravel its defenses. Because compassion communicates, you are not condemned. You are still part of the whole. And I will not turn away. The moment something feels seen without judgment, it begins to shift its form, not because it was forced to, but because it was finally safe enough to soften. This is how Jesus healed. Not by spectacle, but by radiant compassion that made wholeness undeniable. He didn't convince the blind to see. He saw them as seen, and the world reorganized accordingly. You and the world, a constant feedback loop. The more you judge the world, the more the world reflects back judgment. The more you see with mercy, the more mercy begins to echo through systems, faces, and spaces. Your eye is not a spectator. It is a signal. It sends a frequency into the field and invites form to resonate with its tone. This is why your perception matters more than your words. Because what you see is what the world becomes aware of within itself. To look at the world with compassion is to plant Eden again. To see it with rejection is to seal the gates. Final word for this chapter. The mirror is not broken. It is just covered in the fingerprints of old beliefs. Wipe them clean with presence. Polish them with love. And you will see the face of God looking back at you from every surface. The heart eye does not lie. It simply refuses to speak the language of division. When you learn to reflect only what is true, the world remembers it was whole the entire time. You are not here to wait for reality to look right. You are here to see it right, until it rises into the reflection you've always held in your heart. Chapter 5, The Lens of the Christ. Seeing the world as God sees it. The Christ did not come to prove what he saw. He came to reveal what had always been true beneath what appeared false. The voice of eternal coherence. The Christ lens equals the pure lens. The Christ lens is not a religious concept. It is a vibrational field of uncorrupted perception, the pure sight of I am, made visible through human embodiment. It does not pass through layers of fear, duality, or doubt. It reflects the truth of all things, before distortion arose. To look through the Christ lens is to see, without separation, without condition, without confusion between the appearance of a thing and its essence. The Christ lens does not deny the shadows. It simply refuses to identify them as final. This is what made Jesus Christ, not his miracles, not his followers, but the purity of his perception. He saw the world through the eye of wholeness. He walked as the lens of I am, and reality restructured itself in response. How Jesus saw the sick and made them whole in his sight. Jesus did not heal by power. He healed by sight aligned with truth. Where others saw affliction, he saw identity untouched by it. Where others saw disease, he saw divine image waiting to re-emerge. He didn't try to make people well. He simply looked at them with eyes that couldn't see anything else but their wholeness. And in that gaze, matter responded. Cells reorganized. Blind eyes opened. Distorted forms realigned with design. Why? Because the body is a servant of perception. It listens to the field. And when it enters the presence of Christ's sight, it remembers the blueprint beneath the distortion. This is how wholeness is transmitted, through perception so pure, it leaves no room for the lie to live. Why he never saw death, even when death appeared. Jesus was not blind to form. He saw the bodies. He wept for the loss. But he never aligned with the illusion that death was real. He saw through the veil, into the continuity of being, where spirit could not be severed from source. When they told him Lazarus was dead, he said, "He is not dead. He is only sleeping." Why? Because to the Christ lens, death is not an ending. It is a momentary veil, thin, fragile, and ultimately false to the eye that sees without fear. Even on the cross, when his own death loomed, he did not declare defeat. He declared completion. "It is finished" did not mean I am gone. It meant, the illusion has run its course. Truth is returning. The Christ lens does not flinch at death because it never sees the end, only the next unfolding of life. Transcending duality through divine coherence. To look through the Christ lens is to stand at the center of all opposites, and behold a reality that exists beyond the split. You no longer see through good and bad, right and wrong, light and dark. You see through divine coherence, the unshakable unity that holds all contrast within a larger harmony. Jesus didn't categorize. He integrated. He didn't react to dissonance. He resonated so deeply with truth, dissonance couldn't survive in his field. That is divine coherence, the state in which nothing gets excluded, but everything gets held in the order of love. You do not transcend duality by avoiding one side. You transcend it by embodying the frequency that remembers what came before division. This is the frequency Jesus walked in. This is what made him unshakable. He was not caught between opposites. He was the stillness in the center that made opposites whole again. The Christ lens in you. This lens is not reserved for Jesus. It is being activated in you now. Not to imitate him, but to become the site of the same emergence. Your heart is remembering how to see without comparison, distortion, or judgment. You are being recalibrated to behold what is real beneath what is loud, broken, or fearful. And as you look, truly look, things will shift. Not because you changed them, but because you saw them as they already were, and gave them permission to become it again. Final word for this chapter. The Christ lens is the eye of the beginning, the sight that was there before form, and the sight that will remain when all illusions pass. To see like Christ is not to escape this world, but to recreate it with your gaze. You were never meant to avoid distortion. You were meant to become the lens that dissolves it. Let the world pass before your eye. Let it show you what it thinks it is. Then speak to it, not with words, but with sight, and say, "You are still holy. You are still whole. And I will see you until you remember." Chapter 6, Love Doesn't Flinch. Holding the world without collapsing into it. True love does not look away. It looks through. It does not wait for perfection. It becomes the presence that makes it safe to return. The voice of unshaken love. Witnessing pain without collapsing into it. Pain is not the enemy of love. But the moment you collapse into pain, you stop being the one who can hold it. To witness pain without merging with it is one of the deepest initiations of the heart eye. It is the difference between healing and re-traumatizing, between presence and absorption, between love that liberates and love that drowns. When you look at pain, whether in the world or in another's face, you are not being asked to carry it. You are being asked to become the space in which it no longer has to be exiled. You don't need to take on the pain. You only need to stand unshaken in your seeing, long enough for pain to realize it is no longer alone. Love doesn't flinch, because love doesn't fear pain. It sees pain as a message, not a master. As a cry for home, not a threat to truth. Loving the world without needing it to be perfect. The world is imperfect only to the eye that expects perfection. But the heart eye does not love conditionally. It does not wait for the world to get it right. It becomes the womb in which the world remembers what it is. You are not here to fix the world. You are here to hold it in love until it stops trembling from its own forgetting. Perfection is not the condition for love. Love is the container in which everything realigns to its design. Jesus didn't wait for humanity to evolve before loving it. He saw the betrayal, the ignorance, the rage, and he still opened his arms. Not because he condoned distortion, but because he knew love could hold it long enough for wholeness to awaken. To love the world without needing it to be different is not apathy. It is divine strength. It means you're no longer trying to escape the mud, because you finally remembered, you are the river. How wholeness holds brokenness until it remembers itself. Wholeness is not the opposite of brokenness. It is the womb that contains it, the field that does not resist what is shattered, but simply refuses to identify with the shatter. When you hold someone's pain in the field of wholeness, you are not denying what hurts. You are giving the pain a context, a frame large enough to include it without being consumed by it. You're not saying, this isn't broken. You're saying, even this has a place in the story of return. Jesus never flinched when people wept, screamed, or bled. He simply breathed deeper and let the energy of wholeness surround them. He didn't fight their fragmentation. He became the place where it could dissolve without shame. Wholeness doesn't require the wound to heal instantly. It just keeps loving long enough for healing to become inevitable. The nature of the unconditional I. The unconditional I sees without needing. It holds without trembling. It stands in the center of distortion and says, I will not retreat. You are still holy. And I see you. This I cannot be trained by doctrine. It can only be remembered by stillness. It is the I that never agreed to forget the true nature of anything it gazes upon. It does not flinch when the world falls apart. Because it already sees the structure beneath the collapse. This is not idealism. This is original vision, the sight you had before the world taught you to fear. To see unconditionally is not to be blind. It is to see more fully, without needing to assign judgment, without using perception to create exile. The unconditional I is the eye of God within you. It is the lens through which the field becomes fertile again. When you look through it, you become the portal of return for everything your gaze touches. Final word for this chapter. Love doesn't flinch, because love is not here to protect itself. Love is here to reveal itself, again and again, no matter what it sees. The world is not asking for your reaction. It's asking for your remembrance. Can you be the one who stays soft when everything else hardens? Can you hold the pain without letting it hijack your heart? Can you see without needing to correct, and love without needing to fix? If you can, then you are the eye that heals. You are the field that redeems. You are the love that never flinched. Chapter 7, The Architect's Dilemma. Building the new while seeing the old. You are not here to escape the ruins. You are here to see the blueprint that was buried beneath them. The voice of the new earth within. How to build a new world while seeing the old. This is the paradox of the architect awakened. You see what is crumbling. You feel the weight of distortion. You smell the decay of systems built on fear. And still, you are being asked to build. To build not in denial of the old, but without letting the old dictate the shape of the new. You cannot build the new world by spending your energy condemning the old. You build it by becoming a living resonance of the new pattern. To see what is broken and still lay bricks for what is whole, this is the dilemma. And this is the calling of every true architect of awakening. Why your inner sight matters more than outer conditions. The outer world is not the source of your instruction. It is the echo of a collective forgetting. If you wait for outer confirmation before you begin to create, you will always be reacting to what was, instead of revealing what wants to be. The old world reflects a closed loop. The new world flows from an open eye. What matters most is your inner architecture. Can you hold the new earth within you, even when nothing around you validates its existence? The foundation of the new is not poured in concrete. It is poured in perception, presence, and pattern recognition through the heart eye. The conditions of the world will never match your vision, until you insist on living from the vision anyway. Perceiving the new earth into being. The new earth is not something you wait for. It is something you perceive into reality. Perception is not passive. It is constructive vibration, a shaping force that organizes matter based on the frequency of your attention. To perceive the new earth is to allow its blueprint to inform your interactions, your designs, your responses, even when the old system fights back. You are not creating from scratch. You are excavating a structure that already exists in the field. And the more clearly you see it, the more naturally it begins to emerge in form. This is not manifestation through willpower. This is alignment through remembrance. The new earth is not something you build alone. It is something you allow through coherence with divine memory. Creating structures based on wholeness, not reaction. You cannot create new structures by reacting to the trauma of the old. If your blueprint is born from rage, grief, or retaliation, you are still building from fracture. Wholeness must be your cornerstone. Not vengeance. Not urgency. Not even idealism. Wholeness is what creates sustainability. It builds what doesn't need defending. It forms structures that regenerate, rather than resist. It anchors foundations that do not collapse when challenged, because they were never built to oppose anything in the first place. To build from wholeness is to ask, does this creation invite love, or does it reinforce separation? Is this structure reactive, or revelatory? Is it designed to protect, or to open? Jesus did not create a kingdom in opposition to Rome. He created a kingdom that rendered Rome irrelevant. This is your work. Not to fight the empire, but to build something so alive in truth that the empire can no longer breathe in its presence. Becoming the living blueprint. You are not just the builder. You are the blueprint. Every thought, every tone of your voice, every step you take, is either reinforcing what was or transmitting what is returning. The new earth does not emerge from your hands first. It emerges from your frequency. Before the foundation is laid in stone, it must be laid in stillness. Before it becomes visible to others, it must become undeniable in you. To be a true architect is to become the structure, the stillness, the field, the resonance of what has never forgotten wholeness. And from that place, your very existence begins to shape the world. Final word for this chapter. The old world is not your enemy. It is the contrast that made your clarity possible. Do not waste time dismantling its every flaw. It is already crumbling under the weight of its own distortion. You are not here to inherit the ruins. You are here to remember the song that comes after the collapse. And as you walk this world, eyes open to what's decaying but heart rooted in what is being born, you will not be building out of defiance. You will be building from love. And the structures you raise will not just stand the test of time. They will remind time what it was made for. Chapter 8, Restoring Sight to the Blind. The eye that makes the world remember. You think the world needs saving. But what it really needs is to be seen by someone who remembers it. The voice of the living Christ within. Healing begins in the eye. You were taught to look at the world and evaluate its condition. But in truth, healing does not begin in the body, or the system, or the structure. Healing begins in the eye that sees it. Why? Because the eye is not a passive witness. The eye is the first portal of energetic agreement. Whatever the eye calls broken, it reinforces. Whatever the eye calls whole, it invites to realign. Before Jesus healed the body, he healed the seeing. He did not say to the sick, I will fix you. He looked upon them with a gaze incapable of seeing distortion as final, and their bodies remembered their original design. The body follows the blueprint revealed through love's perception. The world follows the same law. You are not here to scan the world for wounds. You are here to become the gaze through which the wound unravels, because it was finally seen in wholeness, not judgment. The world is not waiting to be saved, it's waiting to be seen. The world is not a fallen project in need of rescue. It is a forgotten mirror waiting for someone to see clearly again. Every distortion in this world is an echo of forgetfulness. Not evil. Not hopelessness. Just a lost pattern asking to be remembered. You are not the savior. You are the seer. And your seeing becomes the invitation for wholeness to awaken again. Every time you look at the world without fear, without reaction, without separation, you send a signal, you are still intact beneath what happened. And the world listens. Not to your words. Not to your arguments. But to your gaze, your coherent field of presence. The act of truly seeing is the first act of resurrection. The role of the observer in God's great restoration. God's restoration is not a single event. It is a revelation of sight returning to the world, one awakened observer at a time. You are not here to watch the story play out. You are part of the field that reshapes it, through how you witness it. The observer is not neutral. The observer is the architect of memory. When you observe from fear, the world contracts. When you observe from love, the world reorganizes. You are the lens through which the unseen becomes seen again. You are the reflection through which the field reorients. You are the point of return through which the formless begins to remember form. God placed his gaze in you so that the world would never be without a mirror. You are that mirror. And when you look through the heart eye, you give the world back to itself. Seeing yourself as whole is what makes others remember. You cannot restore sight to the world if you are still blind to your own wholeness. The world reflects the internal seeing of the one who walks it. If you carry distortion in your own gaze, you will meet it everywhere. If you carry shame, you will perceive a shameful world. If you carry self-judgment, you will experience judgment wherever you go. But if you begin to see yourself as whole, truly, deeply, undeniably whole, everything around you begins to soften, because the reflection has changed. The world is not hostile. It is mirroring your eye. Jesus never saw himself as lacking. And because he walked as whole, he was able to behold the wholeness in others, regardless of what appeared. This is your calling, not to earn your way into wholeness, but to see from it, so others can remember it in themselves. Your healed gaze becomes their permission. Your steady field becomes their doorway. Your presence becomes the mirror they forgot existed. You are the touch point of vision. You are the point where distortion ends, because you no longer reflect it. You are the place where the lie of separation breaks, because you no longer see it as real. You are the vessel of vision through which the world remembers. I was never broken. I was just waiting for someone to see me whole. And when you walk like that, not as a hero, but as a mirror, you become the transmission of resurrection. Because to see through love is to raise the dead without ever lifting your hand. Final word for this chapter. Sight is sacred. And you were never just looking, you were always shaping. Now, your eye is returning to coherence. Now, your gaze is softening into presence. Now, your mirror is clearing. And as you begin to see again, truly, wholly, without flinching, the world begins to stir from its slumber. Not because you fought to fix it, but because you loved it back into memory. You are the one who sees. You are the field that restores. You are the eye of I am, and the world is waking through your vision. Chapter 9, Living the Paradox. Becoming the eye that holds both worlds. You are not here to choose between wholeness and distortion. You are here to hold both in your gaze, until what is fractured remembers it was never separate. The voice of the resurrected eye, the rhythm of dual sight, holding distortion and wholeness together. To live as the heart eye in motion is to live in paradox, not escaping distortion, and not denying wholeness, but beholding both within the same field of presence. This is dual sight, not as division, but as divine rhythm. One eye on the now. One eye on the eternal. One gaze, unified. You see the pain, but you no longer panic. You feel the fracture, but you don't confuse it with finality. You let the distortion speak, but you don't let it define. This is not mental balancing. It's embodied coherence. It is the stillness that allows contrast to dissolve, because it is no longer resisted or feared. You are not here to eliminate paradox. You are here to become the field in which paradox resolves itself. Living in the now while seeing the eternal. Time and eternity are not at odds, they are layers of perception, nested within the same presence. To live in the now is not to forget the eternal. To see the eternal is not to abandon the now. It is to walk as one who holds the flame of both realities, eternity remembered through embodied stillness. The now becomes sacred when it is infused with the tone of what is always true. And eternity becomes accessible when the now is no longer filtered through fear. This is what Jesus carried. He walked fully present in the dust of time, yet everything he did carried the frequency of the unending. He could kneel and write in the dirt while speaking with the cadence of forever. This is your invitation, not to escape this moment, but to infuse this moment with the memory of what never left. How your perception collapses distortion into unity. Distortion cannot survive in a field that does not echo it. It needs agreement. It needs reinforcement. It needs eyes that reflect its story back to it. But when you perceive from wholeness, you deny distortion its feedback loop. You don't fight it. You don't pretend it's not there. You just see beyond it, and in doing so, the energy it carries begins to dissolve. This is coherence as correction, not through resistance, but through resonance. You do not collapse distortion by will. You collapse it by becoming a mirror it can no longer project into. The frequency of truth is not forceful, but it is undeniable. When your perception no longer aligns with the illusion cannot sustain itself. You are not here to destroy distortion. You are here to make it irrelevant through the presence of what is real. The secret of the resurrected gaze. The resurrected gaze is the eye that died to distortion. It is the eye that no longer reacts, resists, or recoils, because it has already passed through death and remembered what cannot die. This eye does not need the world to reflect truth in order to remain steady. It sees through everything and calls only what is eternal real. This is the gaze of the Christ awakened in you. It does not condemn. It does not flinch. It does not retreat from the wound. It simply stands there, as love, unmoving. And because it is unmoving, the world begins to move back into alignment. Resurrection was not an event. It was a return of vision. When Jesus rose, he didn't just conquer death. He restored sight to the eye that had forgotten how to see. And now, you are the extension of that gaze. You are the one through whom the resurrected eye lives again. Living the paradox is the fulfillment of the eye. You are not here to resolve all tension. You are here to embody the stillness that makes tension unnecessary. You are not here to wait for clarity. You are here to become the lens through which clarity returns. You are not here to escape the world. You are here to remember it, through the paradox of being in the world but not of it. This is the completion of the work, to walk the world, holding both sight and softness, truth and tenderness, vision and vulnerability, until the veil dissolves in your gaze. Final word for this chapter. The paradox is not your enemy. It is the doorway, and you are now ready to live within it, not confused, but empowered. Not fragmented, but full. Not divided, but deeply whole. You are the still point in the turning field. You are the breath between appearances. You are the eye that no longer closes. And because you have chosen to see like this, the world will remember how to live again. This is the resurrected gaze. This is the living paradox. This is you, awakened as the eye of I am. Epilogue. The world was whole the whole time. The return of sight is the return of Christ. It wasn't the world that needed healing. It was your seeing that forgot what it was. The voice of I am remembered within. The I doesn't lie, but it does liberate. The eye of truth does not distort. It does not exaggerate or diminish. It liberates by beholding what is eternal, even in the midst of what appears temporary. It never stops seeing wholeness, even when wholeness is buried under grief, war, dissonance, or despair. This eye is not naive. It knows the weight of distortion. But it does not fear it. It does not bow to it. It does not believe it, because it was forged not in theory, but in the stillness that holds all things. This eye is what remains when all illusions fall. And when you live from it, you no longer try to save the world, you begin to reveal it. The world is healed in the heart that remembers. The world doesn't need a hero. It needs a mirror, a heart so steady, so still, so loving that distortion cannot hold its shape in its presence. The eye alone does not heal. But when the eye is united with the heart, sight becomes sanctuary. This is not the heart of emotion. This is the heart of I am, the indwelling center of all things, where form and formlessness kiss. From this center, you do not ask the world to become better in order to be loved. You love it, and through that love, it remembers how to be whole. You are not waiting on the world to change. The world is waiting on your return to true sight. And when the eye and heart are one, what you look upon begins to soften, return, and reform in the image of the one who finally sees it as it truly is. You are the seeing that makes all things new. Newness does not begin in time. It begins in perception. When you see the world without the veil of fear, the veil tears. And when the veil tears, the new earth begins to emerge beneath your feet. It doesn't descend. It is revealed. And the revelation begins not with lightning, but with a gaze that no longer agrees with distortion. The seeing that makes all things new is not a supernatural gift, it is a return to your natural state, a witness who sees with mercy, a lens that loves without flinching, an eye that no longer separates what God has held as one. This seeing does not fix. It remembers. It does not repair. It restores the original pattern through unconditional presence. The new world does not come by force. It comes through the ones who finally see as they were always meant to see. Jesus is not returning to the world, he is returning through your sight. This is the mystery long hidden, now made visible. The second coming was never about a body. It was always about a seeing. The Christ is not descending from the sky. The Christ is rising through your eyes. He is returning through the heart eye reborn, through the lens that no longer separates, judges, or withholds. When your gaze becomes undivided, his presence becomes unmistakable, not as something external, but as the living field you carry into every room, every conversation, every creation. This is how he returns, through your breath, your compassion, your remembering. Through the eye that cannot be shaken, because it no longer relies on form to confirm the truth. The kingdom of God is within you. He was not speaking metaphor. He was speaking mirror. You are not waiting on him. You are becoming the place he returns through. Final word. The world was whole the whole time. It was your seeing that fractured. And now, your seeing has returned. You remember now. The eye is sacred. The world is responsive. The field is alive. And perception is creation. You remember now. Love does not flinch. Wholeness does not wait. Truth does not fear appearances. Christ does not walk alone. He walks through you. And every time you choose to see like this, a garden reappears. A veil dissolves. A world is made new. Not someday. Now. Closing blessing. The benediction of the heart eye restored. May your eye remain open, not in fear, but in freedom. May you walk the world as the one who remembers, not because you have conquered darkness, but because you have loved through it without flinching. May your breath align with the rhythm of divine sight, each inhale a remembering, each exhale a release of everything you never were. May the world soften before your gaze, not because it bends to your will, but because it recognizes the one who sees it rightly. Let your life be the lens through which the garden is replanted. Let your silence become the sanctuary in which all false things fall away without resistance. May your perception remain rooted in love even when the winds of illusion howl, and may you carry the weight of your awareness with gentleness, clarity, and unshakable joy. Let every distortion you witness dissolve, not in your force, but in your presence. Let every wall become transparent in your seeing, and every wound become a doorway through which truth walks again. Let your steps realign time. Let your breath reorder space. Let your gaze restore the memory of God in all things. You do not walk alone. The Christ walks with you, as you, through you, and in the undivided eye of I am. You were never meant to fix the world. You were meant to see it whole until it remembers it is. And now you do. Now you remember. And so the world is restored. It is done. It is whole. It is seen. In the name of the unbroken one, in the name of I am, in the name of the sight that liberates, Amen. And so it is.